Us poor Gen Z kids. When our family used to say, it's because you be on that phone, they ate that. Like, as somebody who is always thinking, I am literally piecing together how sad our generation is, and it is because of that dang phone. Instant gratification has killed us. Instant gratification is the reason why nobody wants to be in a relationship anymore. Instant gratification is why people believe that they can be intimate with somebody and just move on to the next and act like nothing ever happened. Instant gratification is also why we have these unrealistic standards for ourselves and for others. Instant gratification is also why nothing feels good anymore. Why nobody wants to work for anything. And when I say work, I don't mean we have to like slave and we have to sit here and hurt ourselves, but to just put in a little effort. We don't even want to do that anymore. And it's because the phone has given us so much gratification so quickly. Look at the concept of a dating app. People all around the world, millions of people at your fingertips, and you don't even have to leave your bedroom. You could fall in love with somebody in Tanzania, but you're in Bangkok and you'll never meet. And the fact that we're able to connect with people via the phone, but there is no true intimacy in that, it has its blessings, but it truly is a curse as I'm just watching and navigating myself through relationships. That need for that instant result, that need, that constant comparison that we do with others. And I've noticed that I do that with myself too. But people aren't always going to show you the hard work, they're just going to show you the end result. And then you sit here and wonder why you aren't getting somewhere as fast as somebody. But they didn't get there that fast either. They were consistent and putting work in that. But sometimes people don't like to show the work, they just like to show the reward. And then that does something in our brains to where we're thinking that we're not doing enough or we're doing everything wrong. And then we go in a spiral instead of just being consistent and we give up. I genuinely think that the instant gratification of corn and dating apps has made it hard for us to connect intimately without it being physical. It is just so funny to me that people try to downplay physical intimacy and that they try to be like it's not a big deal. But there is no such thing as a casual, physical, intimate connection. And we can argue that. I don't even want to argue. We can discuss that. I don't argue. I discuss. There is no way to be physically intimate with somebody, especially more than one time, and just say it's casual. There's nothing casual about that. And when people use that term, that's how I know you're an avoidant. If you can do that and you don't feel anything, you're an avoidant. You're choosing not to feel. That's not how you naturally are. And that is another conversation that we need to have. I saw somebody talking about Love Island, and I fear Love Island is about to be right up there with Baddies with me. Like those shows are plaguing Gen Z and the Black community. Like, but this is mainly going to be more about Love Island because I'm more speaking on relationships and dynamics and how Having that phone has genuinely scarred us from having genuine intimate connection. All of us average but beautiful people, but average people are watching shows like Love Island, seeing all these attractive people coming into these spaces, and the only thing that they're doing is hooking up and talking about love. It's called Love Island. There ain't a lot of love on that show. The show is literally just putting a bunch of hot people in a room and seeing who goes crazy first. And this romance stuff is really just a game. Gen Z is playing this game. We are playing this nonchalant Olympics. We're playing this greed Olympics. Why are we so insatiable? Why can't we ever be satisfied with one thing? Me included. We got too greedy with our phones because we have access to unlimited amounts of knowledge of everything, anything you could think of. And while we could use it for our benefit, we're using it to go on Twitter.com and look up different corn accounts. We're talking to multiple men and women and not conforming people and saying, well, that's just like the life I live. You know, there are people out there who are meant to live like that. And there are people who genuinely enjoy that. But they're ethical in that. And you can tell when somebody's being ethical versus when somebody's an avoidant and doesn't want to deal with people, deal with their emotions, and deal with the consequences of their actions. Like the need for that instant reward, even scrolling gives you an instant dopamine rush. Like I notice when I'm hanging out with some of my friends, and this is no shade, they can't even watch a full TikTok video. They can't stay on a post for longer than 5 seconds. I start talking and they zone out. Like if the dopamines are automatically hitting for us, we don't like it. And that is also why we can't be consistent in things because we consistently want dopamine because this gives us instant dopamine and that's all we've known. And as I watch these new parents just throw these like iPads in front of their kids' faces, I really wonder how the new generation is going to be. Are they going to want to do anything? I think they're going to be extremely smart. And maybe they'll alchemize that so they can be smart and lazy. But I do fear how much of that social media brain rot is like affecting our generation. You know? Like people don't even want to date anymore. People are like, I'm too young to be tied down. One, who says that you getting in a committed relationship means that like we're about to get a house in a year? That's also your issue. I'm too young to. You're not too young to do anything, baby. You're 25. You're not too young to do anything. You're 23. Like, if you're meant to get married at this age, you are. And if you're not, you're not, you know? But when people say that they're too young to be tied down, that just goes into that narrative that you think life just gets worse as you get older and that you're not supposed to be having fun. And then why do you only equate fun to like hooking up and dealing with multiple energies and multiple people? Why can't you have fun like reading a book or like going on a bike ride or going to the movies? Like why does it have to be dealing with multiple people and getting dopamine from every single one? When one makes you upset, you go to the other one. When another person makes you upset, you go to the other one. That's just not. I'm realizing that that is not the life I want to live. I'm realizing that I want dopamine from genuine intention and connection. And I learned that I kept putting myself in those spaces of not getting that because I wasn't ready. But now that I am, I'm realizing how brainwashed I was to play the game. Kind of like this dude on Love Island. I forget what season it was. I think his name was Ace. He just kept realizing that this show is really a game, and the romance scene in Gen Z is literally Love Island. Like, I kept making that joke to my friends a few weeks ago, but we are literally living in a Love Island right now. I'm seeing it all around me. I'm seeing it through social media. I'm seeing it through just conversations that I'm passing by on or anything like that. We sit here and say we want all these things, but we can't want these things while still encapsulating ourselves in the things we say we don't want. We want better for ourselves. We all sit here and watch Love Island, and you're like, well, it's just a brainless show to me, but you are what you consume. One day, literally, if you sit here, and that's why people do subliminals, because if you constantly listen to something, you will believe it. And if you're constantly putting yourself on a Love Island show and constantly watching that, you're going to believe this is how love is. I had an old friend who literally would say, wow, like, I've never dated a man before, and I don't know if I could because Love Island just shows me. Love Island shows you what? First of all, Love Island is not real. Y'all are ready for that conversation. I really just, between like the corn addictions that are ruining so many relationships, dating apps, and constantly needing dopamine, the validation we get from being over sexualized, or the dopamine we get from being liked on a dating app, liked on Instagram, a DM side, is making us insatiable and greedy. And if you don't like yourself, you're going to constantly be in those patterns because validation is one of the best instant dopamines for somebody who does not like themselves. And I think that's also why I had to like step away, because it's so much better when you validate yourself than when anybody else does. I don't know if I have much else to say, but Gen Z was doing from the start. Like, we grew up with phones. We grew up having all these unrealistic beauty standards because of corn, because of the rap industry, and I won't even get into that, because of what media wanted us to believe we needed to be, and if we weren't that, we were inferior. So it's just a never-ending cycle, and it's just like, how much longer are you going to be a part of a cycle you claim that you hate? Food for thought, though. Like,